My fiancé invited his coworker to our private family Christmas, so I secretly transferred the $24,000 luxury bill to his business account. For 4 years after my ex-husband walked out, my life was a beautifully orchestrated, high-stakes balancing act. I was a single mom running a boutique digital marketing firm, raising my fiercely intelligent 7-year-old daughter, Lily. I didn't do it alone. My grandmother, Nonna, lived with us, providing a fierce, Italian-bred backbone of traditional wisdom, while my best friend, Brooklyn, managed the operational side of my business and kept my sanity intact. Together, the four of us were an impenetrable fortress. Then came Marcus. Marcus was a charming, high-performing corporate consultant who swept me off my feet with his effortless attention to Lily and his apparent respect for my independence. When he proposed last summer, using a simple gold band and promising a quiet, dedicated life together, I thought our fortress had found its final guardian. We scheduled our official wedding for the upcoming spring, but the real celebration was supposed to be this winter, a massive combined Christmas vacation and our 3-year dating anniversary at the Silver Pine Chalet, a luxury 5-star mountain resort. Because my marketing firm had just secured a massive seasonal contract, I happily picked up the tab for the entire 10-day booking under my private corporate account, wanting to treat Marcus, Nonna, Lily, and Brooklyn to a luxury holiday. The cracks in the armor appeared exactly 3 weeks before Christmas. I was sitting in our shared home office when Marcus's laptop buzzed with an incoming Slack notification from an unlisted personal account. The preview banner caught my eye. The interconnected suite is confirmed, babe. Audrey thinks it's just an extra storage and lounge space for Lily's toys. She has no idea. My breath hitched in my throat. The message was from a user named Sienna. A young, newly hired corporate analyst Marcus had recently brought onto his consulting team, whom he had casually dismissed as a clueless trainee who needs constant hand-holding. I didn't throw a tantrum. I didn't slam the laptop shut. Instead, I waited until Marcus went down to the garage to check on his car, quickly opened his private messaging logs, and exported the entire thread to my encrypted drive. What I read turned my stomach to pure ice. Marcus hadn't just invited Sienna to our private family Christmas. He had orchestrated a highly calculated, double-booked holiday. He had pressured me into upgrading our chalet package to a multi-tiered, interconnected luxury villa, claiming Lily needed a massive, separate playroom for her holiday crafts. In reality, he had given Sienna the private access codes to the adjoining suite. The plan was for Sienna to stay there the entire 10 days under the guise of an emergency corporate work trip, allowing Marcus to slip through the soundproof connecting doors late at night while my family slept on the other side of the villa. Worse, the anniversary dinner on Christmas Eve, the dinner I was paying $800 a plate for, was structured to include her. Marcus had told Sienna he would introduce her as his co-worker who had nowhere else to go for the holidays, downplaying me to her as a stressed-out single mom who completely relies on his financial stability. I closed the laptop, my hands steady but my heart completely detached. I walked into the kitchen where Nonna was helping Lily roll out gingerbread dough, while Brooklyn sat at the counter sipping a espresso. "Brooklyn, close the kitchen door," I said, my voice entirely serene. "We need to adjust our holiday coordinates." Within 20 minutes, the three of us had analyzed the entire digital trail. Nonna's eyes flashed with a dangerous, ancient maternal fury, while Brooklyn immediately opened her laptop to access our corporate bank portal. "The entire chalet booking is under your business profile." "Audrey," Brooklyn whispered, a sharp, professional scowl forming on her face, "the master credit card on file is yours, but the resort's terms of service have a highly specific liability clause. If the primary guest changes the reservation profile to a split-billing corporate structure before check-in, the secondary occupants become legally responsible for their individual room rates and incidental deposits. Can we execute that without Marcus receiving an automated alert?" I asked. "Yes," Brooklyn smiled, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "We register the adjoining suite under Marcus's personal consulting LLC for business entertainment purposes and authorize a delayed billing cycle that triggers precisely at midnight on Christmas Eve." "Perfect," I said, looking over at Nonna, who was calmly dusting flour off her hands. "He thinks he is a wolf among sheep, Kara," Nonna said, her voice dropping to a smooth, chilling purr. "Let him play his little game. We will ensure he gets the exact table setting he deserves." The next morning, Marcus came downstairs, looking completely oblivious as he adjusted his cashmere scarf. "Are we all packed for the mountains, babe?" he asked smoothly, flashing that charming smile that used to make my heart skip a beat. "Almost, Marcus," I replied, offering a tight, mysterious smile as I handed him his travel mug. "I promise you, this Christmas is going to be completely unforgettable." The drive up to the Silver Pine Chalet was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Marcus sat in the passenger seat of my SUV, playing the role of the doting future stepfather, handing Lily her favorite snacks and endlessly praising the snow-capped mountain scenery. Brooklyn drove right behind us with Nonna, keeping the operational luggage secure. To anyone looking through the frosted windows, we were the picture-perfect modern family heading toward a winter wonderland. When we pulled up to the resort's grand timber entrance, Marcus immediately took charge, handing his ID to the valet with an incredibly smooth, practiced authority. "I'll handle the front desk check-in, honey," he said, kissing my cheek. "You and Nana take Lily inside where it's warm. I want to make sure they have the complimentary champagne iced for our anniversary dinner tonight." "Go right ahead, Marcus," I replied, watching him walk toward the concierge desk with a bounce in his step. He had no idea that 48 hours prior, Brooklyn had officially updated the reservation portal. The master villa was still under my name, but the adjoining suite, room 404, had been legally split into a separate commercial folio registered directly to his personal consulting firm, backed by his corporate credit card for incidentals. 10 minutes later, we were escorted to the villa. It was stunning. Vaulted cedar ceilings, a massive stone fireplace, and a gorgeous dining table set for our big anniversary feast. But the focal point was the heavy, double-paneled oak door at the end of the corridor, labeled Suite 404. Marcus casually walked past it, tapping the wood. "Ah, perfect." The resort staff assured me this site is completely soundproof, so Lily can play her holiday music as loud as she wants without bothering the neighbors. "How incredibly thoughtful of you, Marcus," Nonna murmured from the sofa, her dark eyes tracking his every move with an icy, unblinking intensity. At exactly 4 p.m., a soft knock echoed at the main foyer door. Marcus practically lunged across the room to open it. Standing on the threshold was Sienna. She looked exactly like her social media profiles. Young, calculated, wearing an expensive designer winter coat that I knew for a fact her junior corporate salary couldn't afford. "Sienna, you made it," Marcus exclaimed, his voice raising a pitch as he turned to the room. "Audrey, Nana, look who it is!" Poor Sienna's flight back to her family was canceled due to the blizzard, and she was going to be completely stranded in an airport hotel. I told her it was an absolute family tradition of ours to never let a colleague spend Christmas alone. Sienna offered a fragile, rehearsed smile, her eyes darting around the luxury layout. "Oh, thank you so much for having me, Audrey. I promise I won't be a bother. Marcus speaks so highly of your domestic routine." "It's no trouble at all, Sienna," I said, stepping forward with a perfectly serene smile, extending my hand. "We believe in everyone getting exactly what they've earned for the holidays. Marcus, why don't you show her to the adjoining suite so she can unpack before our big anniversary dinner?" "Right this way," Marcus said, his chest puffing out as he slid his master keycard into the oak door. I caught the brief, intense look of shared triumph that passed between them as the lock clicked open, revealing the ultra-luxury king suite on the other side. They thought they were geniuses. They thought the stressed-out single mom was too blinded by wedding planning to see the trap. By 7:30 p.m., the atmosphere inside the villa was electric with hidden tension. The resort's private chef had laid out a magnificent 7-course feast. Marcus had changed into a sharp tuxedo, and Sienna sat across from him at our family table, wearing a sleek, low-cut silk dress that was entirely inappropriate for a casual, co-worker holiday rescue. Throughout the entire dinner, the subtle disrespect was blinding. Marcus would constantly pour her wine first, laugh a little too loudly at her inside corporate jokes, and subtly downplay my achievements. "Audrey runs a cute little boutique agency," Marcus chuckled, waving his hand dismissively toward the chef as he served the truffle risotto. "But Sienna and I handle the high-stakes corporate auditing. It's a completely different level of mental exhaustion." "Oh, absolutely," Sienna purred, tilting her glass toward him. "Marcus is the absolute backbone of our division. I don't know what I'd do without his guidance." Brooklyn sat next to me, her phone resting face down on the linen table runner. Beneath the table, she tapped my knee twice, the signal. It was exactly 11:45 p.m. The automated split billing cycle on the resort's mainframe was about to trigger, locking Marcus's corporate card into the full, non-refundable commercial rate for the luxury suite, plus a mandatory $5,000 incidentals deposit for the peak holiday season. I set my crystal wine glass down onto the table with a sharp, deliberate click. The laughter at the table instantly died down. "Marcus?" I said, my voice cutting through the warmth of the room like a razor blade. "Before the clock strikes midnight and it's officially Christmas Day, I think it's time we look at our anniversary gifts." Marcus smiled warmly, reaching into his jacket pocket. "Of course, beautiful. I actually have something incredibly special for you." "Oh, don't bother checking your pocket," I interrupted smoothly. pulling my tablet out from beneath my napkin and sliding it across the table. Because I think Sienna would prefer you to keep that diamond necklace you bought from the boutique last Tuesday. The one you told her would look perfect on her during your late-night Slack chats. Marcus froze, his hand sticking awkwardly inside his tuxedo jacket. The color drained from his face so fast he looked instantly hollow. Across the table, Sienna's eyes went wide, her glass trembling in her hand. Audrey, what are you talking about? Marcus stammered, attempting a weak, defensive laugh. That's just business banter. I exported the entire Slack log, Marcus, I said, leaning back and crossing my arms, my face an unreadable mask of absolute calm. I read every single detail about the soundproof doors, the playroom excuse, and how you plan to slip into her room while my daughter slept. I know everything. Audrey, wait. Sienna gasped, standing up so fast her chair scraped violently against the hardwood. It's not what it looks like. I'm just a trainee, he pressured me. Save it, Sienna, Brooklyn chimed in, turning her phone screen around to face them. It displayed a live, high-resolution feed of the resort's internal financial ledger. At exactly midnight, Room 404 transitioned to a fully independent, premium commercial rate billed directly to Marcus's LLC. And because we just authorized a full corporate extraction, the master villa reservation has been entirely canceled for the remainder of the week. You canceled the villa? Marcus choked out, standing up, his chest heaving as panic took over. Audrey, we are in the middle of a blizzard. You can't just throw us out. Oh, we aren't throwing you out, Marcus, Nona said, standing up from her seat, her elegant shawl draped over her shoulders as she looked down at him with pure disdain. You wanted a private suite with your coworker. Now you have it. For the next 9 days. At full peak season pricing. Right on cue, the heavy oak doors of the villa clicked shut as Lily walked out of her bedroom, fully dressed in her winter coat, holding Nona's hand. The resort's bellhop appeared at the main entrance, silently lifting our pristine luggage onto a rolling cart. The room charge, the private chef fees, the premium champagne, and the massive penalty for unauthorized commercial subleasing have all been processed onto your business card. Marcus, I said, standing up and picking up my briefcase, the total comes out to just under $24,000. I'm sure a high-performing consultant like you can handle that with ease. Audrey, please, Marcus yelled, chasing me into the foyer as the security guard stepped into the frame, blocking him from getting any closer to Lily. We're engaged! You're destroying our family over a mistake! My family is completely intact, Marcus, I said, looking back at him from the threshold where the freezing mountain air rushed in through the open door. I pointed to the tablet on the table, where a digital file titled Petition for Breach of Fiduciary Contract was blinking in bright red. You chose her entitlement over my loyalty. Now, you get to spend Christmas exactly where you wanted to be, alone in the dark with your assistant, facing the bill. I walked out into the crisp, snow-filled night, the heavy timber doors of the chalet closing firmly behind me. The sharp, solid click of the lock resonated through the frosty air. The beautiful, perfect sound of my fortress locking out the garbage for good. The heavy timber door of the Silver Pine chalet clicked shut with an absolute, resounding finality. Outside, the blizzard was howling, wrapping the mountain in a blanket of pure white. But inside my heated SUV, the air was warm and smelled faintly of pine and the fresh hot cocoa Nona had packed in a thermos. Brooklyn pulled out of the resort's grand driveway, steering us smoothly down the mountain toward a boutique 5-star lodge just 20 minutes away, one that I had quietly booked the moment we confirmed Marcus's betrayal. Lily was already asleep in the back seat, her head resting on a plush travel pillow, completely shielded from the storm. The authorization just cleared on my end, Brooklyn said, looking at me through the rearview mirror with a sharp, victorious smile. Marcus's corporate card didn't just take the room charge. Because he signed the initial master check-in as the primary point of contact for all incidentals and associated suite liabilities, the resort applied the premium holiday surcharge for the entire 7-course dinner, the vintage wine cellar selections, and the non-refundable cancellation fee for our half of the villa. $24,000, Nona scoffed from the passenger seat, taking an elegant sip from her thermos. A very cheap price to pay for an education in respect. He wanted to play the grand executive. Now he gets to see what it costs to manage a real deficit. Back at the chalet, Marcus was living through a financial nightmare. Because the master villa contract had been terminated under my name, the resort's automated management system instantly deactivated his keycard for the main luxury living area, the private dining room, and the fireplace lounge. He and Sienna were physically locked out of the grand suite, confined entirely to the walls of room 404, A standard, albeit high-priced double occupancy room. Worse, at 1 a.m., Marcus's phone began vibrating frantically. It wasn't a text from me. It was an automated alert from his bank. His corporate credit card, which doubled as the primary operational account for his independent consulting firm, had hit its maximum credit threshold. The $5,000 seasonal incidental deposit required by the luxury resort had triggered an immediate fraud alert, freezing his liquidity entirely. Sienna was in tears, pacing the confined room in her crumpled silk dress, realizing that the high society Christmas vacation she had bragged about to her friends was now a legal trap. "Marcus, do something," she hissed, glaring at him as he stared blankly at his phone. "Call the front desk. Tell them there's been a mistake. My card cannot be associated with this room. I'm an employee." Marcus marched down to the grand lobby in his wrinkled tuxedo, his face flushed with a mixture of rage and absolute desperation. He demanded to speak with the night manager, slamming his fist onto the polished oak counter. "This is an absolute scam," Marcus yelled, his voice echoing in the quiet firelit lobby. "My fiancé fraudulently transferred her room charges to my business account. I demand you reverse the transaction and reinstate her MasterCard." The manager, a calm, meticulously professional man who had already been briefed by my attorney, Hannah, looked at Marcus through clear-framed glasses. He pulled up the digital reservation profile on his screen. "Sir, there is no fraudulent transfer here," the manager replied smoothly, turning the monitor slightly toward Marcus. "On Tuesday morning, Vanguard Retail LLC submitted an official corporate restructuring form. You personally signed the check-in documentation this afternoon, explicitly checking the box that states you accept full financial liability for any and all charges associated with the adjoining suite, labeled Room 404. The split billing structure is entirely valid, and your card has cleared the primary authorization." "She set me up," Marcus choked out, the reality of the situation crashing down on him. "I don't have $24,000 in fluid capital on this account right now. I have payroll next week. If the final balance is not settled upon checkout, or if your card declines the daily room tax reconciliation, the resort will be forced to escalate this to our regional legal department for theft of services," the manager stated, his tone dropping to a firm, unyielding chill. "And since this reservation is under your commercial consulting LLC, we will also notify the corporate ethics board associated with your vendor license." Marcus stumbled backward, his back hitting the stone pillars of the lobby. His professional reputation, his credit score, and his firm's operating capital were all unraveling in a single night. He had built his entire identity on looking wealthy, successful, and superior to the domestic single mom he thought he was outsmarting. Now he was trapped in a luxury cage he couldn't afford, with an assistant who was already drafting an HR complaint to save her own career. By the time the sun rose on Christmas morning, the storm had cleared, leaving the mountains glistening under a crisp, brilliant blue sky. I sat on the private terrace of our new lodge, wrapping a warm wool blanket around my shoulders as Lily laughed, building a snowman with Brooklyn in the pristine courtyard below. Nonna stepped out beside me, handing me a fresh espresso, her eyes warm with absolute pride. "You breathe differently today, Audrey," she said softly, resting a hand on my shoulder. "I feel like myself again." "Nonna?" I smiled, watching my daughter's bright, unrestricted laughter echo across the snow. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a long, desperate text message from Marcus, filled with apologies, excuses, and frantic pleas for me to help him settle the resort bill to save his business. I didn't feel anger, or satisfaction, or even pity. I simply tapped the screen, permanently blocked his number, and forwarded the message directly to Hannah's legal portal to add to the asset freeze injunction. I picked up my coffee, took a deep breath of the clean mountain air, and walked down the steps to join my daughter in the snow. My fortress didn't need a guardian. It just needed the 3 women who built it, and our future had never looked brighter.